So, so I am Chris Brocher, Work Life and Family Services Coordinator here at Iowa State University. And we are a small office. There is me and then a half-time work-life specialist, Carrie Guy. But our purpose here at the university is to support the academic, professional, and personal growth and well-being of both students and employees here. So, a little bit about us. I have our website here, our main page. On this page, you'll find all of the information and resources that we have available to offer our community. We do have some specific COVID-19 resources, information about the campus child care services and how to find care off campus, backup care, some just general parenting resources that we've pulled together, as well as resources specifically geared towards student parents. A little bit about our on-campus childcare services. We do have 3 on-site centers, University Community Childcare, the Child Development Laboratory School, and then ISU Childcare at Veterinary Medicine. We have an overall capacity of about 232 children serving birth through school age. There are sliding fee scales available to income eligible families, including students, which means that students oftentimes pay the lowest rate available. All of our centers, we're pretty proud to say, are very high quality. They're NACE accredited and participate in Iowa's quality rating system. We do just this summer have another option available to our community of ISU families, and that is through a partnership with a community-based center called Eagles Loft Learning Center. That's in North Ames. It's not an ISU center, but we have partnered with them to make available that sliding fee scale that wouldn't otherwise be available to ISU families. We have a couple different financial assistance programs to help student parents pay for childcare. Our main and our largest is the Child Care Access Means Parents in School, or C-Campus grant. These funds come from the U.S. Department of Education, and we've been awarded this grant 5 times. We receive about $250,000 annually, and the bulk of that does go toward tuition for the student parents' children. 75% of the monthly child care tuition for student parents accepted into the program is paid for by C-Campus, and then the family pays just 25% at the campus child care centers. Last academic year, we were able to serve 43 students and 53 children, and the total award amount averaged out to about $8,000 per student. That's going to vary greatly whether they start right at the beginning of the academic year or if they join midway or near the end. The second option we have for graduate student parents is the Child Care Assistance Program. This one works very differently and is much smaller in terms of award dollars, but these are awarded on a semester basis. They range from $500 up to $1,000 per semester, and any child care provider can be utilized in order to claim a child care assistance program scholarship. The application for graduate student parents is open now, and it closes September 30th so that we can award within that first week of October. Another thing that our office focuses on is lactation support. So in partnership with FP&M, we advocate for the inclusion of a lactation space in all new buildings and any buildings that are being renovated. We currently have over 25 lactation spaces on campus, and they're all equipped with an outlet, a chair. Most have a sink, and most are lockable so that they are private. Those are open to any visitor to campus and are on a first come, first served basis. We can also talk with graduate student parents about the break time for nursing or pumping needs if they happen to have a conflict with their course schedule or maybe their TA or RA responsibilities. We can help guide a conversation that they may need to have with a faculty member or supervisor. And then we are also able to connect individuals with community breastfeeding or lactation resources. I want to share just a little bit about some events and support that we've had in the past and one upcoming. So we have a series called Work-Life Connections, and twice a month, actually, Mackenzie Johnson and her co-host of the Science of Parenting podcast, they led very brief presentations on parenting preschoolers, talking to teens, seeking support, effective parenting practices, transitioning back to school, and we recorded those. So all of those are available in our library at the address on the screen. Prior to Work-Life Connections in 2020, we did a series called Family Friday Webinars, began in the summer, lasted through the fall. Science of Parenting was kind enough to present some of those topics for us as well. But then we also had different faculty members and other individuals from the ISU community present on topics like connecting through storytelling and listening. So again, those recordings are at the address on the screen. And we are very excited to this fall begin holding some more kind of social events for our graduate student parents. Our first one is going to be September 25th. And that'll be a come and go event here at University Community Childcare. It'll be outdoors on the playground so the children have a place to play while student parents have the opportunity to meet one another, talk, and we'll provide some light refreshments. We're currently working on the final details and the flyer for that. So I encourage anyone interested in learning more about that event to connect with us on our Facebook page there on the screen. You can also find us by searching Child Care and Family Services on Facebook. That's where we tend to post more about our live events on our Facebook page. Our website is also up there, and then I encourage anyone who needs support to reach out to us at worklife@iastate.edu.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Well, we do get to, Chris and I get to tag team, actually, I don't get to see her as often anymore now that you have another staff member, but I'll be okay. But I'm Mackenzie Johnson with the Science of Parenting. I will go ahead and pull up my PowerPoint here quick, if it wants to do its thing. There we go. So we are a part of Iowa State. We're a part of the extension system. So we like to say we're how Iowa serves its mission of being the 99 county campus. There's an extension office in every county, and we work to address 4 signature issues in Iowa, including feeding people, keeping them healthy, keeping communities prospering and thriving, and turning the world over to the next generation better than we found it. So my specialty is in families, family well-being specifically, and we fall in the area of human sciences. So we are in the College of Human Sciences, is where our campus staff are housed, but the rest of us are all throughout the state, educating Iowans using research-based information on issues of families. So like I said, I'm a part of the Science of Parenting team. I'm a podcast co-host. We have a Science of Parenting podcast in addition to our workshops that we offer. We also blog. You can see our podcast on video or on any podcast platform that you like. But I am fortunate to get to be the co-host. A little bit about me. I have my undergraduate degree in human development and family studies, a master's in adult education. I'm a certified family life educator, and I'm a mom of 2 little kids who has also been a graduate student on and off over the last 5 years. Well, 6, I guess, if you count it. Started a master's program, changed programs, now finished that, and now back in school for a little something else. So I'm with you. I'm an Iowa State graduate student. I'm just doing it from a distance. So I can relate to the experiences of parenting while you're in graduate school. A few things that we always like to start with from our Science of Parenting team is what we understand and believe about parenting. One is that we believe that there's more than one way to raise great kids. It's okay if I do a little different than Chris does it. We don't have to do the exact same things to raise great kids. We think that as parents, you are the experts on your family. Yes, I'm going to share some research-based information, but you know your kids. You know the patterns of their behavior. You know their fears and the things that excite them. So you are the expert on those kiddos. At the Science of Parenting, we really believe in having parenting information available when you need it most. I've been the midnight Googler or the 3 a.m. Googler, right? That you're trying to look stuff up when you're struggling. And so we really work to have that available to you through our podcast and blogs. And then we think that trustworthy information is one step in your parenting process. Trust your instincts is one step. Another step is gathering trustworthy information. And another is sometimes it's seeking professional support, right? Finding those people locally who can support your family or those resources on campus that support you in your parenting journey. So information is one thing, but only you know what your family needs. So the way I want to break down, I did a little research looking at specifically thinking about graduate students and parenting. So these are from some journal articles that I'd read, and it really came up with 3 or 4 main challenges that we tend to face as parents who are also graduate students, right? We have high standards, right? We have big goals that we're chasing, and we're balancing a lot of different things at one time. So the biggest one that we tend to run into that's most highly reported by graduate students who are parents, unfortunately, most of the literature is still focused around mothers. And so that was a lot of the research and the studies we're looking at, but we know there's also a lot that was lapping over into parenting in general. But the biggest one was role conflict. So it's this concept of I'm trying to be 2 different people at the same time. I have conflicting things, right? I have conflicting priorities. I even talk about, we did a webinar on parenting in the pandemic, and I talk about how for the first time, my work life needed to happen at the same place at the same time that I needed to be parenting my kids. That wasn't typically an experience I was having. I would go to the office and work and come home and be a parent. And in the pandemic, that overlapped. Well, as graduate students, that is not our experience, right? These are not often or always separate worlds. A lot of times it's us trying to do things in the cracks while we're parenting and dropping kids off at preschool or practice or whatever it is. And so we have this overlap of our lives. And so how do we manage that role conflict? I want to walk through a little bit of research and a little bit of reality with you. So one thing that is research-based, this is actually a publication from the National Institutes of Health. It's something called the RPM3 Parenting Model. Lots of researchers came together with the National Institutes of Health and they're like, hey, all this science around parenting, what does it boil down to? And so I like to think of it like a job description. If you're like, okay, I'm talking to somebody about becoming a parent, what are the things that they are signing up for? Right? When you go to look for a job, you kind of know generally the tasks. I mean, there's always other duties as assigned, but generally the kinds of tasks that you're going to be doing in that role. So we look at how that works in parenting. So what are your roles and responsibilities as a parent? Do you co-parent? Do you live with your child's co-parent? Are you separated? Are there family members who share this load with you? Are there friends who share the load with you? But as you think about what those roles and responsibilities are, my kids are 2 and 5, and so we still change diapers. We still have bedtimes. We have started the run to and from practice in the school pickup and drop off and coordinating with the teacher and, there's a doctor's appointment, right? So we're all of these things to basically everybody a lot of the time. So let's nail down what it is specifically in our parenting. Well, the RPM3 on my animation is all out of order. It stands for these 5 words. So the 5 tasks in our parenting job description are to respond to our kids' needs, to prevent issues related to health and safety, right? We want to keep them healthy and safe. We're going to monitor their behavior, both online and in person. We're going to mentor them, which is essentially just teaching, right? We teach life skills. We coach them in their academics. That's a lot of our mentoring. And then modeling with our own behavior. So breaking these down a little bit, a lot of the research around this idea of responding is really about giving your child the attention, right? Meeting their needs. There's the basic things like food, water, clothing, shelter. but also giving them the attention that they need and providing the warmth, right? That they know that you are a person that they can trust to help them with their needs. Another part of it is also the idea of responding versus reacting. So when we react, it's that instant gut, like, okay, that was irritating, knock it off, right? If I am reacting, I might go with that thought. If I choose to respond, I might still have that thought, but what I choose to say, it's that little pause between the thought process and the actual behavior. And so that allows us to respond to our kids, right? My daughter started telling me a story the other day, and I was like, I don't love that. But waiting, letting her finish telling it, and I was like, oh, okay, I see what you mean, right? So not going with just that initial instinct, but taking that pause to speak with intention to our kids. Preventing is about spotting possible problems and knowing how to address them. This can be things with our little kids of, right? You can prevent problems by teaching them they need to look both ways before they cross the road. We can prevent issues with our teens by teaching them about online safety or the rules of the road as they get their permit and their license, but that we can prevent issues by spotting them ahead. Monitoring is about knowing where your kids are, who they're with, what they're doing. Yes, even our teens, that we're being also in tune with their surroundings, right? So in what's going on at school, what's going on with their teams or their activities that they're a part of, what's going on with their friends, where are they spending time? Is that a safe place? And, really paying attention to their lives, that you are their parent and they don't have a fully developed brain until age 28. So even your 16-year-olds, your 19-year-olds, your young adults, all the way down right to our infants, that we do have fully developed brains as the parents, or if we're not quite 28, you're getting close. You're closer than your child is, at least. And so paying attention to help keep them safe. And so yes, knowing where your child is and what they're doing is a great way to monitor. Mentoring, it's about helping our kids learn to be able to do more things, right? They learn about themselves. So one of the things we talk about is temperament, one of our favorite topics at the Science of Parenting, but teaching them about themselves, helping them learn their life skills, supporting their academic as well as any extracurricular activities, but it's a lot about the teaching. And then finally, modeling. Now this happens whether it's conscious or unconscious. We are having behavior that our kids are observing. So the big concept around modeling is that we're using our own words and actions to teach and to show those values and beliefs and attitudes. And so those are our 5. I want to go back to this slide. Those are the 5 things as you sign up to be a parent. So sometimes it is like, if you think about the daily, like to and from, right? The practice, the school, the pickup. Okay, I needed to contact my child's teacher. Okay, yeah, they need to get here. And then I need to check with so-and-so's mom about that thing. Right? And so when we think about all that on top of all of the other roles we have, right? Parent is one hat that we're wearing. We're also wearing a student hat. And chances are we're also wearing a work hat as graduate students, that we have some kind of employment that we might be a part of, like an assistantship or a TA or things like that. But that these are really what it boiled down to. These are the needs that our kids have from us as parents. There's this concept called intensive parenting. Some people refer to it as the millennial parent problem, but that our culture today expects parents to be everything to everybody, and to be everything to their kids around the clock all the time. And so we like to boil it back down to, these are 5 things our kids need from us. We don't have to take care of every single thing that comes up. We don't need to anticipate every single need they could possibly have. We can respond, prevent, monitor, mentor, and model. So a few ways that we like to use this is to remind you to keep a lifelong perspective in your parenting. Today is one day. Yesterday when I lost my cool with my kids, that was one day. Today when I had to choose to work on this homework instead of read a bedtime story, this is just one day. And so keeping that lifelong perspective of how you can keep that job description of, okay, yep, I'm not doing it right doing it perfect, right? I really don't even like to say that, but not doing it perfect all the time. But if I made a misstep today, okay, this was one day. The relationship I have with my child and the way that they're going to be raised and the outcomes that they have takes a whole lifetime to build. So giving yourself the grace of remembering, yes, respond, prevent, monitor, mentor, model, But we're not going to do all of them all the time. And if you have days that don't feel like your best parenting days, it's just one. And tomorrow you get another one. So I would say there's been weekends where I spent the whole time in my office writing a paper as my husband and my two kids are out doing adventures, mostly to get them out of the house, right? But thinking like, okay, yeah, I'm missing out. And there's lots of other moments when I am with my kids, right? Where I am investing in them, where they see me loving on them and taking care of their needs. Another way that I like to think about this is in the middle of a challenging moment with your kids. What does my child need from me right now? So maybe, I think like this picture with teens, like, are they having a hard time with friends? What is it that's going on that they're struggling with? And to boil it down, right, it can be in the middle of like, I have this huge thing tomorrow for school. This is not good timing for me. And so you're like, okay, what do they need? Okay, right now they need me to model a behavior for them. They need me to respond to this need that they have. Sometimes it's anticipating something, right? That prevent. Maybe they need me to teach them a skill, but you can lean into that RPM3 concept as like, what does my kid need from me right now? Okay, I can do this one thing, right? Reducing from I have to be the mom of the year all the time to right now I need to do this one thing. So we love to use it that way. Another challenge that we often face as graduate students is this perfectionism and guilt, right? We maybe feel that guilt of intensive parenting expectations of be everything to my kids all the time. And chances are, as graduate students, we are people who have high standards. We are people who have been high achieving, or we've been used to doing lots of things well in our life. And so it can feel hard to have to give even a little. And parenting and being a graduate student is going to require both, right? You're going to give sometimes with your kids, and you're going to give sometimes with your work or with your classes. And so thinking about how we can release those feelings of perfectionism of, okay, but if I can't be a student 24 hours a day and a parent 24 hours a day, I'm not doing either of them well. And that's just not true. That's a lie. That's a lie that I like to say our brain is lying to us. Our brain is lying to us about that expectation to have to be everything to everybody all the time. And so how do we release that guilt and release that perfectionism? One of them is to honor the unique aspects of your family, right? Like I shared with you, I have a husband and two kids, and we live in a house. Some people are single parents living in a condo. Some people are blended families living in an apartment, right? There's multi-generational. What is it about your family and the dynamics that you currently have, the supports that are there, the needs of your specific children, right? Some families have a child with special needs. Some families have multiples, right? They have sets of twins. What is it about your family that you can understand that has unique things for you? Another thing to understand about it is even if there was a lot going on, and even if all this stuff, if you could be the parent and the student 24 hours a day, no overlap, no role conflict, there are no perfect parents. And I actually like to tell people, this is on page 3 of the document from the National Institutes of Health. So this is technically a citation. The citation that there are no perfect parents. It's real, it's written down in science-based information. But really that as parents, we're pulled in every direction, right? It's only one day. And you know what? Yesterday when I lost my cool, yep, I wasn't a perfect parent then. Today, when I did manage to stay calm, but didn't anticipate this other need that was going on, or you know what, I was busy with this and I just had to check out for a while. Like I taught last night. I didn't even see my kids yesterday, besides when I dropped them off at school. And that was the reality of the day. It was one day in the lifelong experience of our parent-child journey. But by some people's standards, they might say like, that's not your best parenting day. And I was like, well, their needs were met. Luckily I had a co-parent I could lean into, but that we're releasing the comparison game, the comparison of, I see this parent being a stay-at-home parent. And so they must be a better parent than me. Or I see this person at every single event for their kids. They must be a better parent than me. Or I see this parent who is so successful in their career already. And man, the modeling that does for their kids, holy cow. right? And so this comparison, as we look at maybe whether it's other graduate students who are parents, other graduate students who aren't parents, right? Others just who are other parents who aren't graduate students. There's all these different unique things that affect every family and every parenting journey, but that there's never going to be a perfect parent. So instead of thinking about good and bad, which is a big one, that we look at competence. So so many measures in our life, we look at performance. How did I do? What grade do I get? And actually, there's this cool research. I like to read this one to people. From Mondell and Tyler. This idea of competent parents rather than looking at performance of parents. Research suggests that parent competence, which is an internal measure of how we view our own effectiveness as parents, is more important than our actual parenting performance alone. The way we view ourselves has a stronger impact on our kids than always just the performance, quote unquote, that we have in our parenting. So according to Mondell and Tyler, more competent parents treat their child as being more capable, resourceful, show generally more warm and positive feelings, and are more helpful with their child's problem solving. Thus, the parental competence attributes are confirmed as significant variables relating to parent behavior and the styles of interaction. So it's about being a competent parent, believing in what you do, having that ability to trust yourself, and keeping that self-talk in check. Because research tells us our self-talk matters, right? I actually don't even have a citation for that one. At this point, we have that as common sense. The way we talk to ourselves matters. But one article that we look at talks about parent self-talk. And is it positive self-talk, right? Are you encouraging yourself? Is it motivating, right? So sometimes I talk about today I wasn't, next time I want to be. Are you motivating yourself to be the parent you want to be rather than just shaming yourself? And are you assigning value to yourself that you are a good parent or a bad parent at a given moment? So check that self-talk, work on keeping it positive and motivating and not assigning value. Because we don't like the terms good and bad at Science of Parenting. Who defines good and bad? Is it you? Is it your neighbor? Is it like I can feel like a good parent and a bad parent in the same day or like even in the same moment? So this concept of good and bad really isn't serving us or our kids. Luckily, this this publication from the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development breaks down 4 adjectives, 4 words we can use instead of good and bad parents. So these are research-based. What brings great outcomes for kids and for parents in their competence? Being able to be a consistent parent where your words and actions align. Being able to be effective. So finding strategies that work with your specific child to get towards the outcomes you want. Being active, as in being engaged in their life, being available to them, which can include, right? Some parents are long-distance parents. Maybe you've moved away to be in graduate school. There are still ways to be active and engage in your child's life from a distance. And then being attentive, understanding your child's needs and what's going on in their world. So instead of calling ourselves good and bad parents, we encourage to talk about the terms, are we consistent? Are we effective? Are we active? Are we attentive? So this is the little kind of breakdown mantra that I tap into when I do have those moments where I maybe, you lay in bed at the end of the day, you're like, okay, so yeah, I didn't see my kids at all today. Or, okay, we were really focused on this. And so really I was focused on writing this paper all day. So even when I did see them, I was kind of a grouch, right? And so I might say in that moment, I was grouchy. In that moment, I can lean into those forwards. In that moment, I was not very attentive and I feel frustrated with myself. I feel disappointed. I feel angry, right? You can honor that there's a feeling that you have about that behavior. So in that moment, I was not attentive and I feel guilty about that. Next time, I want to be more attentive in that moment, right? I want to cut out 10 minutes. There's this whole concept in parenting that I love. There's all kinds of research around this idea of special time, which is literally about, for little kids, sometimes they call it floor time. It's about having 10 or 15 undivided or minutes that are with undivided attention with your kid. 10 to 15 a day. And, I didn't get that 10 to 15 minutes yesterday, but that was just one day. But today, I can work towards 10 to 15 minutes of special time before I have to read the journal articles that I do tonight, right? And so using this little mantra gives you that chance to use more positive self-talk. It's okay to honor and acknowledge that you've had an icky feeling about something that happened with your child. In that moment, I was blank. I feel blank. Next time I'd like to be more consistent, more effective, more attentive, or more active. And that's okay. And then the final strategy that a lot of the research talks about is sometimes just the lack of support or the lack of recognition of the support around you. So I was grateful that Chris and I were able to tag team this because she was able to walk us through a lot of the supports that they're able to offer, but also just thinking about the concepts and the research around family support. So the first is recognizing what you could maybe use some support on right now, right? So like today, I need someone to pick up my daughter from school. I needed a very tangible kind of support. That was what I needed today. Sometimes I just need somebody to listen to, and that's going to give me the space to say, wow, things did not feel like they went well this week, right? And so the kind of support we need can vary from day to day, but giving yourself the chance to reflect on what it is you feel like you could use. Because we know in family support, when you are able to tap into local resources, into friends or family members, into your co-parent, that support is a way to it buffers stress. So when that, right, and like not that we would ever have any of that as graduate students or parents, right, but that stress can feel heavy. When you're able to have support, it reduces the likelihood of that stress having negative impact on you. So it's a big buffer to stress. And we know that isolation is a big risk for depression as well as suicidal ideation and things. And we know the mental health of graduate students is not always in a good place. That constant back and forth of when I'm at school, I feel like I should be at home. And when I'm at home, I feel like I should be doing schoolwork. It can make you feel very isolated. And so when you have that support, that's good for your mental health because isolation is a big risk factor when it comes to negative mental health impact. So there's lots of benefits to support. We know that it influences our self-esteem and efficacy. And efficacy is like primo parenting terminology, that when we can feel effective as parents. So getting support helps us feel more effective in our parenting, which benefits us and benefits our kids, right? That goes back to competence. It also positively influences our parent-child relationship. So not doing it all yourself is good for you and your kids. Getting help from other people benefits you and your kids. I love to share that people are like, well, yeah, I should be there. I should be doing this. Getting that support is going to benefit your kids too. Having more people in their life that they can tap into and trust is a beautiful thing for them. Having support also increases our ability as parents to problem solve, right? To not go into the depths of, I am buried in this and there's no way out. When we have support from other people, it gives us more chances to problem solve issues that inevitably come up, right? There's going to be conflicts. You're going to have a paper due on the night that your child has their school concert or whatever it is. And so figuring out how you can get that support, who are the people in your life you can tap into, or the local resources that you can lean into. So one challenge for people in terms of getting support, a big barrier, is the concept of the norm of reciprocity. So basically, you did this for me, so I owe you one. So I'll share with you last year. So my daughter and my niece are the same age. And so my sister actually lives just down the street from us, which is really fun. And so they were in the same class. They had the same teacher last year. I was in a pickle because we found out a week and a half before school that her preschool was going to close at 12:30 every day instead of closing at normal school time. Every single Wednesday for the whole school year. I was not prepared to take a half a day off every week to be with my preschooler. My husband didn't have that flexibility. We didn't have any family members who were like, oh yeah, sure, we could do this. We did work out a childcare situation, but we still were like the middle of the day. I sometimes travel 2.5 hours away in the middle of the day for my job. And so my sister was like, every Wednesday, I can't keep her all Wednesday afternoon, but I could take her to and from. I could take her from school to childcare. The school we were at didn't have a busing system at that time. And I remember telling her, no way that every single Wednesday you're taking my kid. I'll owe you so huge. Like, no way, I can't do that. I don't have the flexibility you do that way. And so sometimes that idea of I'll owe you too big, or I won't be able to pay this back the way that you're paying this to me, that can prevent us from accepting support that's available, right? That a parent offering to be the carpool, okay, but I'll never take my turn in carpool. I can't, like, we can't do that. And so sometimes that norm of reciprocity can get in the way of us accepting support that is available around us. So doing some reflecting around that as you think of the type of support you could use, reflect on if maybe it's available and you're unwilling to accept it at this time. So that can be a big one. Another barrier to support is mismatch between the support offered and the need you have. So I a lot of times think of like maternity leave, like when I had my child and everyone's like, I'll come over and snuggle your baby. And I'm like, please don't come snuggle my baby. I want to snuggle my baby. Please come clean my house, right? But so sometimes the support that's available to you is not a match with the actual need that you have. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we can address that by looking at some different types of support. So I'm going to skip through these since we don't have a lot of people here to do the chat, but the different types of support. So there's two main categories of support. One is instrumental. So this is the practical support, right? So things that like information, which the Science of Parenting hopes we're able to help offer information support, but getting advice or suggestions when you're having trouble, that would fall on that informational or instrumental, right? That practical side. And then also the tangible things, right? The chores, the carpool, the errands, the food. And sometimes that's the support we need. And as like students who are parents, we have conflicts with our time. We have like, right, all these projects that we're balancing. And so sometimes what you just need is that tangible support of, I need somebody to come do this. The other side of it, which is support we often don't think to specifically ask for or look for, is affective, which is relating to having your needs met. So your emotional needs, right? Are there people in my life reassuring me that I'm working hard and doing a good thing? Are there people in my life supporting my graduate work? Are there people in my life telling me what I'm doing is important and that show me they care about me and that they love me? And then the other one that I think is even more hidden is this concept of esteem. Do we have support and feeling like we belong? Do we have a cohort of students that we're in our program with that can offer belonging? Do we have people in our life who value our formal education journey and think that it's important or worth our time or money? And so those feelings of having support. And so the places that we get these different kinds of support look different, right? I'm not going to ask my advisor to pick up my kids for me, probably, right? But maybe there's somebody else in my life, another parent in my child's class, or maybe I can lean into my co-parent or a close friend. I have a really good friend who's not a parent, and she is one of the best people for me to talk to when I'm having a hard time because she's great at offering emotional support. She lets me know that I'm loved and that she understands what I'm saying, even if it's not her experience. But so there's a variety of people and resources to lean into to find these things. Another way, right? You're like, okay, Mackenzie, that's cool that you have a good friend or that your sister lives down the street or that you have a carpool family, right? And it can be easy to be like, well, I don't have those specific things, right? But luckily, there's also professional options for a lot of these things, right? We can lean into opportunities in the graduate school to find belonging, opportunities at the college to like be a part of clubs or groups, other parents who are graduate students for emotional support. We can do therapy. There are professional options that can help support us in those ways. We're always grateful for, right? I think of the services or the programs that Chris was talking about. Some of them are tangible, like childcare and making it easier for us to afford it while we're students. And so breaking down what are those people around you, but also what are those resources around you that are forms of support. So thinking back to that type of support we looked at right at the beginning, what's going on right now you could use support around? Which of these types could you maybe use? Informational, tangible, emotional, or esteem. Once you've identified the kind of support you can use, enlist help, right? You can get from, like I said, from resources. There's professional services we can lean into. Sometimes even like asking for Christmas. One year we asked for a gift certificate to like a local house cleaner. when I was like right at the end of finishing my master's. I was like, that's just all I really want. I want someone to come clear the dust because I can't stare at it anymore. But I also can't clean it myself right now because I really need to work on this project before the due date, right? So enlisting the help that you can get, sometimes even leaning into those services that we have. The next thing, and this is actually some personal advice from me as a fellow graduate student, as a parent, plan those requests. Because if you wait around for the right offer, the norm of reciprocity might prevent you from accepting it, even if it might be exactly what you need. Or someone's offering you support and it's not what you need, right? That you have people in your life who are like, let us know how we can help. Let us know how we can help, right? I can't think of how many times you get, like, you hear that when you have a baby, right? Or something like, there are times in your life people are like, let us know if you have a family emergency, let us know how we can help. So taking that time to plan, okay, I'm having a hard time. I could use this type of support. And then what exactly do I need, right? So the other day I was asking my sister to say, hey, could you pick up our daughter, my daughter at this time and drop her off at home? I'm going to be home working, but I'll be in a meeting over the full hour that wraps around school pickup. So I need this thing at this time. Could you help me with that, right? When do you need it? When are you going to ask for it? Sometimes it's like, well, I can't ask for anybody for this because it's last minute, or, it's too late. And so making that plan of, okay, I might bump into some trouble here because that's the week that this huge thing is due. What help could I use that week? How am I going to ask for it? Am I going to lean into that Uber Eats, right? That DoorDash is going to be supper for our family that week, and I'm going to be okay with that. And that's just going to be just fine. And so planning what you need and where you're going to get it and when you'll ask for it. With one of my kids, I was like, I don't, all this offers of like, oh, we'd love to help. I'm like, oh, we would love meals. Please bring food over and then leave. But so figuring out what exactly you could ask for help and when is a big part. Plan those requests. And then our favorite parenting strategy for all parents is this concept of stop, breathe, and then talk. So there's actually some cool research behind how this works. It goes back to this concept of reacting versus responding, getting that pause in there. And so stop is about recognizing that your emotions are running high. It can be that you're overwhelmed with the stuff you're doing. You're feeling guilty can be a part of it. But recognizing that you have emotions and that they're affecting both the way you parent and the way you interact with people in general. So that's about stop. It's like, whoa, okay, yep, all right, I am feeling strongly about whatever it might be. The breathe is as simple as it sounds. But there's this cool research, actually in medical, I can't remember exactly which journal article it is, because I have that in a different slide set. But they talk about how a 6 to 10 second long breath can re-regulate your nervous system, your respiratory system, and your cardiovascular system. So that is a simple trick you can keep in your back pocket at all times when it's like, holy cow, my brain is completely out of whack. I am overwhelmed. I am so frustrated by kids that keep fighting while I've asked them to be quiet. That long breath, that big deep breath can help you re-regulate your body and your brain. And then you can speak with intention, right? You can tell your kids, I think of I remember there was one weekend, my daughter was 2, and I had this huge paper due that of course I had procrastinated way too long on. And so I had to spend the whole weekend locked in a room trying to work on it. And my daughter, I remember 2, mama, play with me, mama, play with me. And just no, I'm the worst, right? And that breath and saying something like, I love playing with you. Right now I have to do this. And I'm so excited for on Monday when I get to pick you up and then we'll go blank, right? And so instead of just being like, I can't play with you and then feeling bad about it later, I was able to take that breath. Okay, yep, I feel bad and I feel stressed because I procrastinated on this. I'm going to release, I'm going to re-regulate my body, and then I'm going to speak with intention. I want to do this with you. I can't right now. Let's do this later. Because there's going to be those times where we have to figure out which ball will bounce. If you haven't heard that metaphor before, it's not research-based, it's just a concept that I've heard that I love. Sometimes the ball that you're holding, the commitment that you have, the conflict that's going on, sometimes the ball is glass, right? Feeling like you're missing a moment that you can never get back with your kids, that ball feels glass. Sometimes you have a project or you have a presentation at a conference. The conference is not going to wait for you, right? Sometimes that ball is glass. And so it's not as straightforward as family first, or you have to be committed to your academics. It's about figuring out which ball is glass and which ball will bounce, right? I had to work. My daughter is doing like a 6-week soccer thing this fall. I have to work on one of the Saturdays. I can't be at the soccer game. But it'll be the first time I've taught this class in 2 years for work because we haven't been able to get people for it. So the glass ball for that day, which is just one day in our lifelong parenting journey, is work that day. And the soccer game, that's a ball that'll bounce. So figuring that out for yourself and then walking through these different strategies that you have to help reduce the guilt and perfectionism we often experience, to help you navigate the role conflict that we inevitably run into as people who have high standards for ourselves and who are balancing a lot of different hats. So a few reminders of what we walked through, our strategies to keep a lifelong perspective. Remember that this is one day in the whole journey of your parent-child relationship. You can lean into that parenting job description of the RPM3. What does my child need from me right now? Okay, this one thing. Check that self-talk and use that positive terminology around consistent, effective, active, attentive. And then consider those 4 different types of support. Do you need that tangible? Do you need that esteem support, that emotional support, or informational? Figure out how you're going to enlist help, who, how, when, and then those plan for those requests that you're going to make for support. And then finally, my favorite, in the moment, in the heat of any moment that you have, is that stop, breathe, talk technique. So we hope this helps you. We do have a little bit of information around temperament that we don't really get to dive into too far today. But if you want to learn more about it, Chris, is that webinar still recorded and listed online? We have a cool opportunity for you to learn more about your temperament and your child's temperament. Chris's department will help pay for some temperament profiles, and then we get to do some one-on-one consultations. So we always like to at least bring it up when we tell people that that's a great opportunity. So the different traits that all of our kids have, figuring out where your kids land on all that. And so you can complete a profile. But in this amount of time, we couldn't go through every single thing. But luckily on our podcast, you can find out more. So season 4 uses that parenting job description concept as well as those 4 words. You can dig into those there. We also, season 2 has a lot around support. There's one episode specifically around seeking support and finding it appropriately. So we hope that you'll check out more information that's a little more in depth in our podcast episodes. Otherwise, you can subscribe to our podcast or follow us on Facebook or Twitter at Science of Parent. You can also email us directly, parenting@iastate.edu. So if you have questions for us, you can find that. And that is what we have for you today. Thanks for letting us hop in. It was really fun for me to do some research around this topic because, yeah, like I said, I experience it myself as a graduate student parent.
And there are a couple of attendees, so thank you for joining us today. And if you have any questions, feel free to either raise your hand or you can drop a question in the chat.
I'm just asking if there's any like physical support that the university have for parents, for like graduate parents.
What do you mean by physical support?
Like activities for parents and kids that can attend together.
Yeah, I think you might have joined after I spoke, but we kind of took a break from our in-person social events, of course, over the last year. So this fall, we are going to try to get those back going again. So in 2 weeks, on September 25th, which is a Saturday morning, we're inviting all student parents to come out to University Community Childcare. We're going to have an outdoor event in the morning on the playground so that children have a place to play. while parents can get to know one another and just socialize a little bit. We'll have some light refreshments. And we are going to make that announcement from our Facebook page. And then I am going to get some distribution lists to try and pass that message around, our flyer around to student parents on campus. But it can, sometimes we might miss someone. So I do encourage everyone to just follow our Facebook page, because that's where we will put the announcements about this upcoming event on the 25th, as well as any future ones that we do plan.
Do you have a website instead of Facebook? And do you have a visual website for those activities?
We don't have a dedicated webpage on our site right now, since we are just trying to relaunch this. But I think it would be best if you sent us an email just at worklife@iastate.edu. And that way we can better communicate with you about the events and, our website, our Facebook page, and stuff like that.
Okay, could you repeat that email again? Worklife?
Yep, just worklife, WORKLIFE @iastate.edu.
Okay.
Thank you, Mackenzie. She just dropped that into the chat for us. Don't know why I didn't think of that myself.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And thank you for